Okay, the heat is on. Drivers are pissed off. So look at this. Protesting. Hundreds of drivers rally ahead of Uber shareholder meeting. And then outside of Chicago, rideshare drivers protest outside Uber hub over wages, safety concerns. And then last month, Uber drivers strike during Florida's Taylor Swift concert. So in this video, I'm going to ask, what are drivers so pissed off about? So what are the issues? What are the things that they want changed? And I'm going to get into all of that. And stick around, because at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you whether I think all of these protests will actually give the drivers what they want. Hey everybody, it's Jay CRADEUR with the RideShare Guy. Drinking a hot Nespresso. All right, just to get a little more fired up about all of the stuff that's going on, right? So I'm a driver. I've done over 29,000 rides. I've experienced the good and the bad, and I've definitely had my share of rage at what Uber and Lyft have done. And I have some different opinions than probably most drivers as to where I think this whole thing is going. But we're going to jump in first about what's the number one complaint drivers such as myself have had with Uber and Lyft. Number one, show me the money, right? They have reduced how much money we can make per hour as a driver. And that just isn't cool. So there's been 3 stages that I know of in the way that we've been paid. So what you're seeing here is the first pay structure, I got 80% of the passenger's fare. So if the passenger had a $20 fare, I would get $16 and Uber and Lyft would get $4. And that was awesome. And that's what I signed up for. That was what I originally agreed to. And I did not think that was going to change, but it did. Second pay structure, it was time and distance. So I was no longer getting a percentage of the passenger's fare. This would allow Uber and Lyft to charge higher fares without paying me more. So I got so much money per mile and so much money per minute for the actual ride, okay? It didn't matter how long it took me to get to pick up that passenger, but once I got there, I knew exactly what I was going to get paid based on how long the trip was and how many minutes it took me to make that trip. So I was pretty okay with this. I realized Uber and Lyft could then charge more, and I wouldn't be taking advantage of that. My earnings were pretty fixed, and Uber and Lyft could start to charge more in certain situations, and I wouldn't, benefit from that. Then we go to number 3, which is the current one, and that is called a black box algorithm upfront payouts. Each ride has a personalized payout presented to the driver before acceptance. The driver can accept or decline based on profitability. So this is completely different than where we started, right? Before it was very simple. I got 80%. And this is what has drivers really angry, is that, gosh, we started with such a simple system, and as independent contractors, how can Uber and Lyft be changing everything like this, right? By making all these changes, they're treating us more like an employee, not as an independent contractor. And there's the rub. That's the real problem. If you're going to treat us like an employee, then you need to give us some other benefits, right? So number 2, that's the complaint, employee benefits. If you're going to jerk us around with all these different pay structures so that you can pay us less, charge passengers more, then you should give us some of the things that a typical employee would get. So sick pay, vacation pay, reimbursement of expenses, things like that. These are the things that drivers want. And even a guaranteed pay that's higher than what most areas are currently paying. So these are the things that drivers are protesting about and hoping to get. The third thing that drivers are upset about is unfair deactivation. So to be deactivated means that Uber or Lyft says, you can't drive for us right now. We've got a problem with you as a driver, and we need to get this resolved before you can drive again. I was notoriously deactivated for 6 weeks by Uber based on simply a technical mistake, right, regarding the background check. So it was very frustrating. And I understand how upsetting it can be because you can't drive for Uber. In my case, fortunately, I was driving for Lyft at the time also. So that's what I did. I drove 100% for Lyft. But not everybody has that. Can you imagine how angry you would be if you only had one in your market and you got deactivated and suddenly you can't work? And they won't tell you what exactly is wrong because they don't even know, because it's a technological glitch. So the other thing that's happening is some drivers are complaining about, some passengers are complaining about their drivers, and there's the racial component, right? So bigots are in their cars. Somehow the driver irritates them. They complain about the driver, get the driver deactivated simply based on BS and the color of his skin or her skin. So these unfair deactivations are a point of contention as well. Number 4, Uber and Lyft's arguments against bringing these things to drivers. So they say that most drivers, they just want freedom and flexibility. And that's what they are providing, freedom and flexibility. And they're paying a certain rate. And if you like it, take it. If you don't like it, don't do it. Okay? So that's kind of their position. And they say that if they have to provide these extra benefits, then the prices are going to have to go up. And if the prices continue to go up, less people are going to want to use their service. And that in the long term will be bad for drivers because they won't be able to make any money because there won't be as many people driving, wanting rides from Uber and Lyft. So that's, in a nutshell, their argument. They stick to, we are independent contractors, and this is the deal. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, don't drive. But as it looks right now, they have an abundance of drivers. So what's the problem? Number 5, can Uber and Lyft keep raising their prices? So I've had many conversations about this with other drivers. If Uber and Lyft keep raising their rates, will the demand go down? According to Forbes, in this article, Uber's new math, increased prices and squeeze driver pay. While Uber's price escalation succeeded in boosting its mobility revenue, ride-sharing demand is inelastic, at least at historical price levels. It also depressed consumer demand growth, okay? So what they're saying is that as prices have gone up, the demand has come down. And that's according to Forbes, which is a pretty respected financial magazine. Now, number 6, Washington State. So Washington State has had some amazing success. It says Washington Uber and Lyft drivers win paid family and medical leave. So then in Washington, the state of Washington, they are guaranteed a pretty fat rate based on minutes and miles, right? So that's the second pay structure. So they're guaranteed a certain minutes per mile, $1.17 per mile and 34 cents per minute with a minimum pay of $3 per trip. And they're also going to be getting paid family and medical leave and sick time. So that's awesome for Washington. And other states are trying to do the same thing. But the question I have, and this is number 7, is who pays for Washington, right? So if Washington is getting a lot more money from Uber and Lyft, and Forbes is saying that if they keep raising their rates, there's going to be less demand for Uber and Lyft services, who's paying for it? Well, if you do the math, who's paying for it is me, little old me here in Sacramento, because Uber and Lyft are trying to grind us down lower so that they have more money to pay Washington, and they don't have to raise their rates so that they can keep the demand for their services high. In fact, Lyft just laid off 1,200 people to try and keep their costs low. But the best way that they can keep their costs low is to pay the drivers, which we are their biggest expense, as little as possible. So the key takeaway is, who knows? Everyone's fighting for their little piece. So you can be happy for Washington. You know, they've got their nice high rates and people can drive full time and make a decent living for their family. Good for them. But for the rest of us who are not in that same place, we're getting ground down, with all these upfront schemes, the black box algorithm payouts. And we have to be really creative in order to make the same kind of money that we were making a year or two ago. So, I'm no prognosticator, but I'm just looking at, they're making more money. Uber and Lyft can't keep raising their rates. So where's the money coming from to pay for Washington? It seems like it's coming from us drivers. And then if everybody's at Washington's level, right, which is the idea, that's the panacea, that's the, everyone's happy, no more protests. Well, then Uber and Lyft have got to make a lot more money to pay and to be profitable. And if they raise their rates, well, how much more growth can they experience if their rates are really high? So that's the rub. Yeah. So we'll see. At this point, all you can do is focus on your little piece of the world and do the best you can as a driver. And I guess that's the bottom line. Let me see if I missed anything else here. So I see both sides, right? I understand being really pissed off about things. And I also see the, let's just go drive, be happy with what you got and make it work. And if you don't like it, quit, go do something else. So, you fluctuate. Sometimes it gets emotional and you're hot and you're bothered. And I have certainly experienced that. And I guess I'm more right now in a place of I'm just driving on the weekends and I'm making enough to make it worth my while and enjoy the passengers. So you can pick your poison. If you want to be pissed off, be pissed off. For today's video, I'm wearing my Anthony Bourdain shirt because he's the guy that really kind of said, F you to things he didn't like very much. So he'd probably love to be on the protest side of this, the pissed off side of it. Yeah. Okay, so thanks so much for watching the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet to our channel, subscribe. We bring you fresh content every single day. Be safe out there. This is Jay CRADEUR with the RideShare Guy. So you can take care of yourself. Go tell somebody you love them. Not when you're pissed off, but when you're in a more of a nice, calm, zen state. And be safe out there. Bye for now.